Hi, folks. I'm Wayne Ebersole, your host of the Outside Podcast. It's a pleasure to be with you again today. Today, we're going to be talking airplanes and aircraft, and I'm especially interested in this because I'm a pilot myself. And so, we're happy to have with us Mike Barber and our regular guest Aaron Baumgartner is also on. Unfortunately, Slade couldn't be with us today, but
Slade is getting ready to go on the turkey tour, turkey hunting.
oh, that's right, he's going turkey hunting. That's right, I forgot
Yep.
about that.
I think he's going to the National Wild Turkey Federation convention in Nashville. Then he's getting ready to go turkey hunting for like 2 months.
Well, we'll wish him luck on that. Hopefully, he comes home with a couple beards. So that'll be good. Anyway, welcome, Mike. How are you doing today, Aaron? Maybe you want to introduce Mike because he's your guest.
Yeah, absolutely. So I met Michael Barber from up in Charlottesville, Virginia, when met him up on the ski patrol up at Wintergreen Ski Resort. And so, my ski patrol history goes back to 2000 and no 1997, I believe. And so Sugar Mountain, North Carolina, I worked on the
Yep.
pro patrol there, and I had to, with ski patrol, you got to have OEC, which is outdoor emergency care certification for the National Ski Patrol. And so I let it lapse when I got busy with my career and building a business. And so I went back to get it and met Michael up at Wintergreen when I went back to do it again. And so Michael and I just really connected, hit it off, and stayed in touch. And he's got some Carteret County, North Carolina connections, which is also where the
Love it.
Lucan's Island is located that I've been working on, which we're getting ready to move that to a closing. So Michael's here. He's involved in aviation. I'll let him tell about what he's doing, where he's going, and then we'll talk about opportunities for cross collaboration between the aviation community and conservation, land acquisition, carbon markets, biodiversity markets, flying communities. We'll see where it takes us.
Sounds good. Welcome, Michael. Tell us a little
Hey,
bit about
thanks,
what you
guys.
do.
Yeah. So, well, like Aaron said, we met through ski patrol. A passion on the side, and it's funny. You meet somebody, and you start talking for the first time, and like you said, Carteret. That's where I grew up, going to the beach as a kid. Still have a place down there, and we got a Boston whaler we take out to Cape Lookout. So I love it. But yeah, so my name's Michael Barber. I work in business aviation. I got into the industry about 12 years ago. And what I specifically do is work in whole aircraft sales and acquisitions. But the company I work for, Leviate Air Group, based out of Dallas, Texas, one of the few companies out there that are three entities under one umbrella. So we manage aircraft for clients, and could be a large cabin or all the way down to a PC-12 for easy in and out. We'll talk about some of those. And then we do charter brokerage, so the one-off type flights. If somebody wants to go from point A to point B, be it vacation or business. And then my side of the world is the acquisitions and the sales. So I'm working with businesses and individuals, trying to build the right mission, figure out why you want to go, where you want to go, and what's the right solution. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited to talk to you guys today, and I've been involved with a handful of folks that live in or participate in having property that is remotely accessed by aviation, and it's a part of their lives. So it's a wonderful part of mine.
So have you gotten your pilot's license yet? Have you been?
I I actually don't. I grew up flying in some smaller airplanes. My dad's best friend. My father introduced me to aviation through his best friend since high school, who has, as of the last few years, retired from flying with American, and he actually lives in a flying community down in just outside of Burlington, North Carolina.
Interesting. I didn't know there was one in Burlington, North Carolina. That's interesting.
Yep, it's called the Dutchie if you ever want to look it up.
The Dutchy, fascinating. So, you know, I have long been a follower of aviation and been intrigued with it. As you know, I fly a lot, and so
Just a little bit.
just a little bit. Spent a ton of time on airplanes and been a lot of private planes as well, and had the luxury when I was in college of flying around on a King Air jet between Atlanta and the Bahamas often, offshore sport fishing. So I've been very exposed to that world and have a special appreciation for it and for what the airplanes can do. And their time I read it all the time. They're time machines, they're time savers. And there's so much truth to that. And so, but I think what's really interesting, I feel like I've seen in the past 4 or 5 years, and maybe I'm just paying more attention. I don't know, but talk about the aviation community. I feel like I've seen an increase in demand for the aviation communities. Is that an accurate viewpoint?
Oh, without question. I mean, one of the major drivers was COVID. When that happened, and all of a sudden travel took a steep decline, and it didn't matter if it was private or commercial. Nobody was going anywhere. Everything was getting shut down. As travel and as people desired to travel came back, I still tell people when travel came back, anyone who rode in the back of a commercial jet wanted to ride first class. Anyone who rode first class wanted to charter. Anyone who wanted to charter started looking at buying. And if you already owned, well, you either bought early or you held on and you sold high. One of the two.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, the demand took a very steep increase as we came, as COVID became more under control per se. And then what we've seen in the last 6 to 9 months is a stabilization of what I'll determine as the new normal. You're seeing prices in terms of an acquisition or even a sell starting to level out or plane out. And a lot of that in Q1 of 24 is actually being driven by increased supply. So it's just like everything else in the world, supply and demand. Right now, we have more aircraft becoming available. Thus, it's driving prices down. Because if a seller wants to get rid of something and there's one available, you charge what you want to charge. Somebody's going to pay for it. But when there's 25 available, well, now you have to make a case as to why yours is the best. Even if the market is only 5-10%, of what's out there available, people can only pick from those who are willing to release what they have. And the manufacturers going along with that conversation have such a backlog for new deliveries that the owners who want to buy new are having to book 12 to 24 months out to be able to get an aircraft. Once upon a time, they had what's called whitetails. You go to an OEM and you pull up to the front door, and there was a handful of airplanes out back, and they were pre-built and ready to go. You just put some paint on it. Here you are. That doesn't exist. That time is gone.
So when I first reached out to you about coming onto the podcast, I shared with you an article, and in the article it says many flying resorts seek to put more space between their guests and the stress of everyday life with activities and experiences ranging from hiking, horseback riding, skeet shooting, golf, massages, soaking in hot springs. And then it says, read more. New $1 billion flying luxury resort and residential community planned for Sasquatchie Valley, Tennessee.
Yep.
And then
right outside of Chattanooga.
Yeah. Okay. And so, so outside, we're in the land business or the real estate tokenization business, and we're always looking at opportunities and what's the highest and best use opportunity on a tract of land to monetize it, but also to protect it. And so, what kind of got my interest, in this space was the idea that we can, build tiny homes in Western North Carolina, where I'm from, and essentially set those up on a property and establish a flying community, right? And if you think about I'll do a comparison here for you. It'd be interesting to run these numbers. But if you think about for example, a 5,000 acre tract of land or a 10,000 acre tract of land, and if you put solar on, 4,000 of the 5,000 acres, well, you're utilizing 80% of it, right?
Sure.
And what is that return on investment? Can you get to a very high, acceptable return on investment by using 10% of the land as opposed to 80%? And can you get there with a runway, tiny home, glamping type community, a low, eco-friendly, flying type resort? So have you seen those type of concepts? I'm sure there's, different concepts out there, but like there's one that I'm reading about here, Sealy Lake Airport in Montana, for example. Have you seen that type of stuff starting to evolve?
Yeah, I think that started, I mean, years ago, and there's a few different styles of it that exist. I mean, they're flying communities where it's primary residences. You find those in the middle of North Carolina right now.
Yeah.
I've got a close family friend that lives in one, but I've also got clients who, example, live in Texas and own a couple of cabins up in Colorado, and so they hop into a Pilatus PC-12, carries 8 passengers, and they can go up and spend the weekend kind of off the grid up at a handful of cabins, taking friends or family, and kind of getting off the grid, being able to do exactly what you're talking about, hiking, hunting, whatever they may want to do, and then go back. I think a lot of that concept starts with, you can look down in Texas at some ranches. You can look up in Montana, Wyoming at some folks that may own even a single home with a grass strip to be able to get in and out of, and then building off of those concepts. They exist. I think, like a lot of things in life, it's gaining not popularity, but gaining awareness that they exist, and that right marketing to be able to get people to come in. Because you don't need a big airplane. The beauty of a fly-in, a resort, a community, whatever, is somebody that's flying a Cessna 172 with Aaron, you and me, hop in an airplane and let's go for the weekend.
Yeah.
Or depending on the size of the airstrip, that's the airstrip and what the fixed base, fuel and things like that, what's available will very much control who can come and what that looks like. So it could be you're flying for a burger and you just want a great view. It could be I'm going for a week because I want to go on a hunting trip and it's the closest place that I can stay, and maybe that's where the guide goes out of.
Very fascinating. Very fascinating.
I've done. I like I told you, Mike. I have my pilot's license. I actually have a plane back in Pennsylvania, and that's what we would do with it. We would go to these little airports, and maybe we go for a dinner or a burger or something like that. But I also used it for work as well. Flew photographers around and things like that. So I get what you're saying. That, and I never thought about this whole thing of can aviation and conservation coexist to preserve land, but I think there's something there.
Oh, I without question, I think there is, and with the number of companies that are working to provide for the conservation of land, but also trying to figure out how to utilize it at the same time and make it usable, and what that happy medium is. I mean, the easiest way to get in and out is with an airplane in a lot of these cases, just because of the topography and access.
So let me play, kind of devil's advocate here for a moment. So, if you track, if you track the headlines, Taylor Swift, right?
Wait, who?
Right. Her jet, one of the biggest polluters. It's been a top headline news article, right? One of the biggest polluters, her jet. So I think what's really interesting is, there's, if you follow I can't remember the name of it, the Instagram page where the guy tracks all the celebrities.
Yeah.
He actually includes, what is their carbon emissions from that.
Yeah, I believe his last name's Sweeney.
Yeah.
Something like that. So he actually includes their carbon emissions from that trip, right? And so on every time he puts one on Instagram, I was every day. And so I think what's really interesting about this flying community concept and bringing in this eco conservation strategy around it is that, if we play the cards right, outside is well positioned to go to the aviation community and say, hey, do something positive over here. Use your resources, use your network, and use your web to do something positive, and let's flip the script.
Yep.
You see what I mean? And so there's carbon emissions being used. Carbon emissions being emitted from the use of this jet. But let's show how we can work together to identify a 10,000 acre tract of land and protect that, and drive an eco glamping concept on it, that's a fly-in concept, and drive carbon credit sequestration, biodiversity credits, conservation, outdoor recreation, all of that under one roof. And I think there's a tremendous opportunity there, and it's something that I have, as the CEO and founder of Outside, something I've been really focused on for the past 2 or 3 years. And I don't know why you and I have not spoken about Lucas Island, but we should, because that's actually a great opportunity there. Huge.
No, I agree. I mean, having grown up going down there, like I know what the region provides, and I know it's a great idea. That there are a lot of charter operators, and I know that there are some owners as well that when they fly, they are paying additional to provide some type of offset. So it's yes, the carbon footprint that Sweeney shows is X for the airplane. But oftentimes somebody is trying to pay more ahead for whatever that payback is. But the conversation doesn't exist, and I don't think the education exists in a lot of cases of where does it go and what does that look like. Where, Aaron, what you're talking about is, here's something material. Here's something real you can talk about, look at, So it's not just the hypothetical of, sure, I paid a little extra money and I got these green credits for XYZ. It's here's the land, here's the good, here's the tangible asset that is being offset and through that process.
That is 100% where I'm going. My struggle with the carbon markets is that they're not real and tangible. And so, what I've always, strived to do and what we do as a company is to essentially take that issue of a carbon credit not being real and tangible and essentially figure out how to turn it into something that is real and tangible.
Which is huge. I mean, everybody likes to hold something in their hands.
Right.
And sure, they may not hold that tree in their hand. I mean, they may go to your glamping site, hug the tree, and there they are.
Yeah, they can do that, but we're going to charge them $1 to hug it. So
hey, whatever.
There's actually a startup company in California that actually did that, charged people to come out to the woods and hug trees. That's where that's coming from. That's why I said that. And so no, I think there's really a huge opportunity there to tap into, and that's why I asked you to come onto the podcast, because that's something I've been looking at, working on, and thinking about behind the scenes, and it's a tremendous opportunity to, essentially, like I said, flip the script from. It's actually, I was pulled it up while we were talking on Instagram. It's Celebrity Jets. And, if I click on the last one that was there, Kenny Chesney's jet landed near Nashville, Tennessee. This is 7 hours ago, right? Flight time 20 minutes, 116 gallons of fuel used. And he puts in here 1 tons of CO2 emissions. So, how can we, and so, he's showing where Kenny Chesney is flying to, coming from, right? And showing how much fuel's been used. How can we go to this community and flip the script and work with this community to build a better narrative is what it really is, and show that, like you said, that for all we know, Kenny Chesney could be offsetting his carbon emissions travel, but we don't see it. We don't know, and nobody knows, and certainly not.
That's what I was going to say, because Taylor Swift's spokesperson said that she has bought more than double the carbon offsets for all her travel, but it's never associated with his site or the airplane or anything, and nobody knows that.
Yeah, right. And it's doing it is one thing, but then having to explain it to somebody, and here's what we're doing, and it's not even necessarily on the owners, I think, or the user of the airplane, because think about that. Somebody who charters, you're chartering for work. You got to go to a business trip. Sure, there's emission offset from that trip as well, but how do you tell somebody that without showing them the invoice from the trip that, look, I paid X for this trip, but I also paid X amount as a part of this invoice towards the carbon, and not everybody does that. Like I'm not going to speak for the whole industry and say everybody does this on every trip, but there are plenty of people who do, and they take advantage of it. Because they want to try to provide and give back and do something correct for offsetting that, because it is a concern for the future. But I think, the tangible side of that, and the education and marketing to say, like, look, here's an asset. This is what's being offset, through this process, could provide some value.
Yeah. When you go to a Las Vegas aviation show or somewhere like that, I mean, is this carbon emissions and this is this a
it's huge.
Is that a conversation that you have? I mean, is that stuff that's front and center?
It's not even just at the show. If you go to the NBAA base out in Vegas or in Florida, if you go to E-base in Europe, we're talking about not only the offset, but we're talking about sustainable fuel. Mm-hmm. And then even here local in Charlottesville, I've got some friends that are here that work in the sustainable market where they're in wind energy, and the next thing they're working towards is building on that sustainable aviation fuel to try to help that side of the industry. It's already in the plans.
Yeah.
And so it's not only, and that conversation started out with a guy that works in wind energy. When he learned I was in aviation, he goes, "Oh, well, funny you say that, because here's the next endeavor that we've already started. It's just a matter of, haven't launched it per se."
And along that line, we're working with a company to grow sorghum Sudan grass that's actually being used to generate sustainable jet fuel.
That's awesome.
And we're going to hopefully bring that on as a crop for some of our farm properties and stuff. So it's a conversation we just had to talk again about today.
Yeah, 2 years ago, I met a gentleman that is based in Arizona that runs the sustainability, everything sustainability for Boeing. And one of the things, I apologize, y'all Molly's barking at me. One of the things that he said to me when we first met and was talking about this, I asked him, I said, what is Boeing doing to build a net zero emission? And his answer was sustainable fuels, sustainable aviation fuels. That's what we're focused on.
And so many of the OEMs right now have made a pledge that based on X date, and I can't quote to you what it is, but based on X date, every aircraft that's produced from that date forward will be able to operate on sustainable fuel. So it's, everyone knows it's a discussion point. It is a topic of education at every conference I've been to for the last 5 years plus. And it's just a matter of, building that base of education and people learning where they can go find out more information, where they can use it, where it's available. Like anything else, sure, sustainable fuel is great, but you can only get it in so much quantity at first.
Yeah.
And where is it available? And then as more is produced, you'll be able to find it elsewhere. And then in the long run, we'll be able to get it everywhere is the hope. But like anything you start, it starts small and it has to grow.
So what we have to do, we have to go Nebraska, Montana, somewhere and buy a 30,000 acre ranch and build a eco glamping flying community on it, low footprint, and protect it forever. Do a sort of carbon sequestration deal on it and grow Sudan grass.
Yeah.
Sounds like a perfect idea. I'm in.
Mm-hmm. That's what we got to do.
Yeah, that's what we're working towards. That's what our fund's working towards. So, I have a question for you too. Like, aircraft have a long lifespan, so it's nothing to have a 1981 Gulfstream 5 or something like that out there. How does sustainable aviation fuel? Is it backward compatible, or is there enough change in engine design, specifically in the jet engine, that older aircraft would be very expensive to retrofit? What does that look like?
So I can't speak knowledgeably about the whole backstory of that, but yes, in short, it is backward compatible in some cases.
Okay.
Which ones? No, I'm not sure, but yeah, there are aircraft right now that are flying on it that with some retrofit have been able to make that happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Aircraft do have a long lifespan, and people, even when buying an aircraft, they see quote high time aircraft. Mm-hmm. An aircraft is designed to, like a vehicle, like a car that you drive, significantly longer than what most people would expect.
Yeah.
And sure, you find a 1980 Falcon 20, it's going to burn more fuel than a comparable aircraft of newer build, just because of the build of sustainability and better operation.
Yep.
And what is all that equal? At the end of the day, it's, as we see those older aircraft phasing out, which they are, there are definitely some significantly older aircraft out there in terms of 60s and 70s, but a lot of times you see those in much smaller airframes.
Yeah.
The smaller private, when I say private, the aircraft that you and I may fly.
Yeah.
The smaller 4-seater type aircraft.
That's what I have. I have a 1973 Piper Cherokee.
Yeah.
And I'm still burning 100 low lead on it, and that was one of the things that really got my interest. I flew some diamonds for a while, DA-40s, and the whole idea of transitioning to jet fuel there with the diesel engine, I mean, to me, that was a huge idea. Like, why don't they make a replacement engine for my Cherokee that burns diesel?
Cherokee. Right. Yeah, but as you get into the newer models, I know the discussion exists about how to integrate that sustainable fuel into the existing fleet.
Mm-hmm.
And so the effort and the work is going both directions. Yeah, we want everything moving forward to make this happen, but there is a selection of aircraft out there that is flying now and will fly for the next 30 years.
Yeah.
So how do we make that aircraft as sustainable as it can be versus, scrapping and getting something new? Because aircraft aren't inexpensive, A, to buy, or B, to operate. It's one of the things a lot of people don't understand about aircraft is the purchase is only the first step.
Yep.
The operation is the lifespan.
It's been a year or two ago since I read this article. I get this flying magazine emailed to me all the time, and that's where I see a lot of stuff. I can't remember what it was called. I'd have to go back and find it. But electric aircraft.
Yeah.
You seen any movement in that space at all?
There's a huge push for electric aircraft, and it's how to engage not only electric aircraft in terms of where does that go in the future, just like an electric car, but be it smaller passenger or package options. You see some of the drone stuff that exists with deliveries in some of the major cities around the U.S., with example Amazon, but the electric aircraft and example at the NBAA out in Vegas this past October. As soon as you walked into the conference center, they had an exhibit set up that was nothing but electric aircraft. Mm-hmm. And what does that look like? And out at the static display, which is, so the conference is usually set up, the convention center, you go in, that's where you meet with the vendors and other folks. But we also take over part of the executive airport that's in town. So they can fly in aircraft so that if a potential buyer wants to see something. And they actually were doing demos on an electric aircraft concept that was there, just taking off and landing, just getting some ideas. But it's just like the sustainable fuel. There are a ton of people working on it, and it's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
So I definitely think you're going to see that form into something smaller that you or I could get into before it gets into the bigger market. But they're sure working on it. They're working on large, 8+ passenger aircraft that could be electric.
If we think about a future world where everybody's flying around in their own little drone or something, right? Like you used to see on the Jetsons, the TV.
Dude, I was about to say Jetsons if you didn't.
So like all right, so FAA pilot's license, right?
Yep.
What happens there? Like does everyone have to have a pilot's license to go down that road?
I would imagine so. I mean, look what happened with drones. Oh, you're right. No, I mean, look what happened with drones. When
exactly.
When drones came out, you could go to the store, buy a DJI, and throw it up in the sky, and here you go. At that point in my life, I was doing residential and commercial photography, and it was before the drone licenses existed. And so here in Virginia, I mean, I live right on the edge of the Blue Ridge Mountains, and so the local community where the ski resort is, I would go up there and I would use my DSLR and I would do pictures inside the house. And when I went outside before drones, I had a 24-foot extension painter's pole that I bought an adapter for, and I put my digital camera on the top and send it up so I could get a picture from the hillside, but looking straight at the house. And then when drones came out, I didn't have to do that anymore. Just fly a drone up and take a picture. A few years later, now you have to go get an FAA license to operate a drone. My brother's got one. He's got a business down in North Carolina where he's taking pictures for contractors doing land survey type stuff. And so, yeah, you have to have that just to fly the drone. So
for commercial applications.
For commercial applications, yes,
right.
To get compensated. But even in a small airplane now, 172, you have to have that pilot's license to fly for personal. It would be hard for me to believe that they're going to let you take a human up in any type of airplane, electric or otherwise, without some type of baseline certification and knowledge. The risk is way too high.
Yeah, I haven't really thought much about that, but I know what you're saying. That the drone business started out, people commercially. There was no pilot's license, regulatory environment established around it. I guess it comes to question like who's really regulating that, and can they really regulate that as much as they
can? I think a lot of that comes down to the drone manufacturers as well, because even the personal drones that you can buy now, because they are connected through GPS, a lot of that education that exists for that license has to do with, what is the airspace? Mm-hmm. Where are you? How high can you fly and all of that. And so as a baseline understanding, the idea was you don't want that drone to go too high. You don't want this electric people mover to be in a space that is not seen, and maybe there's a passenger jet coming through, or a 172, or even a glider. It doesn't really matter. But the idea is the protection of, ADS-B is a requirement that was put into place a few years ago. So every aircraft can be seen by other aircraft in the sky to protect each other. And that, without question, would have to be a requirement within the electric community as well, so that if you decide to go take off and you're leaving your house and you're headed down to Carteret, as you're passing RDU on your left and you got Kinston or RDU on your right and you got Kinston on your left, and you're making your way down, it's like, sure, you may want to stop at Wilbur's for barbecue, but as you take back off, the airport's right there.
Yeah.
So if somebody's taking off or landing, you've got to be ready for that.
Yeah.
I've never really put much thought to this, but you kind of sparked a question I have here, and we'll probably wrap up with this. But the FAA is that I know in the United States, if you don't have a pilot's license, you go through the FAA. What about outside the United States?
So every country has a certifying agency. And what that agency's title is changes based on each country. But there is an agency in every country that is similar to what our FAA uses and regulates. Mm-hmm. And it's not only for the pilot's license, it's for the aircraft. And so, example, if you're buying an aircraft from outside the U.S. to bring it into the U.S., you'll have to deregister the aircraft from the given country. And then typically that country will have to send documentation to the U.S. proving that it's deregistered before the U.S. will even register it. So it's kind of like you're moving from Virginia to North Carolina and you have to turn in your tags on your car in order to get a new set. Mm-hmm. Same idea. There is another regulatory agency who, like, what the title is changes. So it's not just the aircraft administration, but there is a certifying agency within every country. Yeah. And what rules and regulations they have, now those vary greatly based on where you are.
Interesting. I never really had thought about that until we had this conversation, but you piqued my curiosity now. Well, this has certainly been fascinating. Thank you.
Yes, it has.
Well, I look forward to us getting into an electric aircraft and making our way down. Maybe it's out to Montana, or we make a stop in Colorado, or head out to Carteret, and we'll glamp a little bit, but we'll also be giving back.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. Now we're going to start tokenizing aircraft too, and fly-ins, Aaron, huh?
Hey, There's got to be a way, right?
No, there is a way. There 100%.
Aaron's already got it figured out. He's already down that road. Well, thank you, Michael. Appreciate having you on today and telling us a little bit
Absolutely.
about
Thanks for
that.
the
Maybe you'll be
invitation.
selling fly-in packages along with your aircraft too.
Let's make it happen. And like you all said, there's plenty of information out there about similar concepts that exist in terms of the flying community. But
Yeah.
I think the direction you're heading in terms of the larger scalable, what happens with the tokenization of the land and making it truly a full circle is impressive, and it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, no, it is. Well, folks, that wraps up our episode for today. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you being with us and listening to this, and look forward to seeing you in a new one.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.